Welcome to In It to Win It. This is Steve Barton, and thank you for tuning in. I'm here with Albert Liu of Luma Financial and from the Rural Classroom. Albert, thank you for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure.
Yes. Okay, this is your first time on the show.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and give viewers your story. Tell us how you got into investing and how that led to your company and to hooking up with Rick in the Rural Classroom.
Okay. That's kind of a long story, but yeah. So, I actually was studied to be an engineer. So I was an engineer for about 10 years, doing semiconductors. And, you know, the first step of investing is to like make some money and save it, right?
Yeah.
Spend less than you make and invest the difference, right? So, the first part of that process is just working and saving. That's how I started. So I, accumulated savings. And at that point I had to decide what I was going to do with it.
Yeah.
And this is like the early 2000s. I've just discovered Austrian economics and libertarianism and Harry Brown and Doug Casey. And I'm looking at the clouds forming, and gold's like, I don't know, $300 at the time. Hasn't budged for a long time, because of sort of not an official price control, but the government is intervening.
Yeah.
Right? The Bank of England is selling gold, and they're keeping the price down. And another guy I discovered was Peter Schiff, who was talking about the housing bubble, and I put that all together, and it made sense to buy gold. And so I did that. It was at the same time I was kind of going through a career change. So I said I was going to retire from engineering. I started writing a newsletter. It wasn't circulating. I wasn't charging people for it, but I was just doing it to get my thoughts down. And so I started recommending gold. And like we all know now, for the last 20 years, if you look at the return on gold, it's been almost 10% annual.
Yeah.
Like ridiculous for, a brick. Basically, because that's like the average 100-year return of the S&P, including dividends. And a brick basically did that for 20 years.
Yeah, pet rock.
So anyway, so that was probably like the easiest sort of risk-adjusted return you could get. And I was promoting that to anyone who would listen. And this is like going into 2007, like right when the Lehman and Bear Stearns thing happened. And I think I got a little bit of credibility after that, because I was saying a lot of the same things you see like Peter Schiff and these guys are saying back then. Peter was obviously on a much bigger stage, saying it more with much more force, Peter Schiff style.
Yeah.
But I was essentially saying the same stuff.
Yeah.
And when it happened, I got some credibility. And then, fast forward, that just evolved into starting a small gold dealer in Houston called Woodlands Bullion. And then from that, getting licensed as a financial advisor, and then managing money for people in Houston.
Okay.
So that's the first sort of chapter. That's how I get in. But you're a small businessman at that point, right? I didn't go work for Merrill Lynch or anyone. I just started my own business. So you have to do marketing or something like that. I had no idea how to do marketing. I was an engineer. So that's right around the time podcasting was getting big, YouTube's getting big. So what the heck, I'll try this. So I started doing these interviews, and I wasn't getting any business from it, but I was having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Probably like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And, I got Jim Rogers to come on, and I met Doug Casey that way. And this is like quite a while ago, like 15 years ago, when it wasn't commonplace for a Jim Rogers to come on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like you just didn't, as a nobody, just call him up. But I did, and it worked.
Yeah.
So I kept doing it. And even though I wasn't getting anywhere with it in my business, I was meeting a lot of interesting people. And eventually I met Rick through that process. I interviewed Doug a couple times, and I knew he spoke at a conference in Vancouver every year called Capitalism and Morality. So one year I went out there, and it was really like to meet Doug, get his autograph, like a fanboy. And I went out there, and I did meet Doug, which is very cool because we talked a couple of times. We got along really well. But the guy who spoke either before him or after him was Rick. And I didn't actually know who Rick was at the time.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I was blown away by his talk. I said, I need to get to know this guy better. So I asked him if he would interview with me later. He was kind enough to agree. And we scheduled it. And then I just started talking to him more regular and just soaking it up.
Yeah.
And I know probably a lot of people who have their own shows, because I know Rick is pretty much ubiquitous on YouTube now, know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You start and it's just, you're just learning so much, and he's very generous with his time. Come on, and he's very patient. And so I went through that process. And after how long it wasn't that long, but he's just invited me to just come do that for him at Sprott. So he basically created a subsidiary called Sprott Media, and he asked me to run it. So I did that, and then I did that for a while. Ultimately, he retired.
Yeah.
Right. So we split, but we ended up working together just outside of the company in sort of the same way. So now I'm running Dual Classroom, which is the online platform that you're helping us with.
Yeah.
Which is an online resource for natural resource investors to come learn and share insights about mining investments with, experts and also peers. And there's like Rick says, all of the knowledge is not always coming from the podium.
Yeah.
It's coming from the people in the community. And you really see that in the classroom when we have our sessions. So we're doing that. And I also have my original wealth management business. It's Luma Financial now that I run in near San Diego in California. And it's great. I feel like, I get to spend a lot of time doing my hobbies. So a lot of this stuff just started as hobbies. And now it's sort of what I do every day. It's great.
That's interesting. I had a similar story in podcasting. I started out doing poker. So I was playing poker and gambling and Texas Hold'em. And I kind of went through the same thing. I just called up the best poker players in the world, and lo and behold, they came on my show. And then after a while, I realized I'm like, I'm pretty good with patterns, and that was my talent with poker was recognizing betting patterns. And I'm like, I can do the same thing with stock charts. And so I just parlayed that into what I'm doing now with reading charts and looking over balance sheets, and it's the same thing. It's just recognizing patterns, and it's similar upbringing. If you just call these guys or come to the conference and shake their hand, the next thing you know, it is. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so my favorite part of all of this is the Rural Classroom. That has really taken off. We're almost at 10,000 members.
Yeah.
And it seems like every week I do a weekly market recap, and I look and see how many members do we have in the Rural Classroom. It's like every week we're getting another 100, 200 people coming in. So we're really building a base right there. Let's talk a little bit about what people get in the classroom. You do a Q&A with Rick. It seems like almost twice a month, something like that.
Yeah.
We have guests in there. We've got an event coming up on Boxing Day. Tell us about the classroom.
Well, the idea is that we go to conferences like this, or I meet people, and then they just start asking a lot of questions about mining investing.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're known for. And oftentimes it's, questions that can't be answered with a simple answer, or it's stuff that really is beyond my scope of expertise.
Yeah.
So by creating this platform where Rick and I do these deep dive sort of lectures or Q&As on different topics in investing, I have a place to direct people to.
Yeah.
Because, most of the content on there is free of charge.
Yeah.
So when we come to a place like this and people say, I'm interested in getting into mining investments, the first thing I think is, be careful. Especially if they're very eager, be careful. This is not, this can be quite, a difficult space to make money in. So now I have a place to send them to go to Rural Classroom. We got something like 14, roughly 40 minutes sessions on the intro to natural resource investing. And Rick goes through sort of the 14 or so most basic lessons that you have to learn before you even get started.
Yeah.
And I think that's very helpful because it helps orient people to what's involved, what's going to take, what are the risks? Is this suitable for me?
Yeah.
Do I have the psychology to endure it? Because Rick talks about his good times and his bad times on there. And so you have to decide, do I have the psychology for this? And then once you get through that, if you want to do more, we have additional resources in Rule Plus. And that's a paid member area where we have not just Rick, but we have Adrian Day, Joe Mazumdar. You come on, do these special lives with Rick. We have boot camps. we have all kinds of like additional resources. We have like a private podcast feed that summarizes the week, and you get it on your phone. Do these things to help people advance further in their journey investing, also make it easier.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love it. I dig it. We've got a special event coming up on Boxing Day. That's going to be December 26th. Adrian Day is going to be emceeing it. He's going to be hosting it. I'll be there. You'll be there. Joe Mazumdar is going to be there, and we'll put that out. It'll be for free on the Rural Classroom, so you guys should check it out. And it'll be fun. It'll be right day after Christmas. We can all get together and talk shop and companies.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be a year in recap. I think we're gonna get together, put our heads together, and talk about the most important stories.
Yes,
2024, and then the new year we'll talk about forecasting for the next year. But this will be a time to like kind of look back.
yes. Okay, what is your highest conviction trade for 2025? What do you see coming into the new year? What commodity are you most excited about? What investment?
Oh wow, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
It's up. We had like almost 30% boost in gold this. So when people ask like, what do you think about gold next year? It's to be honest, we've had a good run. We've had a really good run. So Rick always says it's the metal first, then it's the majors, then it's the juniors, then it's silver.
yeah.
Right. So I think it's about time for some of these gold equities to move. I don't know if we're going to get much more help from gold.
Pues,
Honestly, it's sort of the two things that impact metal are sort of the perception of the dollar, inflation wise,
yeah,
and the creditworthiness of the U.S. And neither of those things are something that can be resolved in 1 year, or even for one president's term. But if the market gets a sense that is going in a direction, that's all it takes. So if people think that inflation is under control, just like the smallest indication of that could send gold down.
yeah. Good. Send it to 1800 again.
Hopefully not that far, but yeah, it doesn't take much. But on the other hand, if they announce some kind of big spending plan and people think, the deficits are going to get out of control, then gold will skyrocket. It's just so hard to say.
Yeah.
But I think, the equities are due. I just don't know if we're going to get much help from the metal.
Okay. Now, when you say equities, are you talking like the majors, or are you talking, because the majors have had a pretty nice run? I mean, since February, we've had a double,
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's the progression, right? We were talking about having a boot camp on gold. So we have a gold boot camp. I think it's January 11th.
coming up in January. Yeah.
We've had that on the table for a long time, but it wasn't really the best time.
Yeah.
And I think now is a good time because of exactly what you said. We saw gold go.
Yeah.
Now you're getting action in the majors.
Yeah.
And like Rick always said, look, it takes that.
Yeah.
It takes that for the setup. It's almost like a precondition. Like that happens, then the juniors go.
Yeah.
Right. And look, I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
But I think that the experience says that we're due.
Yeah.
This is a question that everyone keeps asking. Like, why did movie? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really excited about the juniors. I feel like, we had a double in the majors, kind of basically got past the point of concern, as Rick says on that one there. I feel like, we need to redeploy that somewhere. You know what I mean? Got a bunch of cash sitting on the side, kind of waiting on a recession. Like I think some of these juniors and some of the ones around in the halls here have got a lot of potential.
Yeah.
We shall see. We'll see. Okay. So probably more on the junior side, you think, than the majors.
Yeah, but this is not my fort, Steve. You're getting into crystal ball, Eric. To be honest, really.
All right. What do you have any other thoughts you'd like to share? Any?
Did you talk about the election on this channel?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me turn it around. What have you been talking about? Okay. What are your viewers thinking about what happened?
I get a lot of questions on this. I get basically the most questions I think I've ever gotten on the channel came shortly after the election. And for the first time in my podcasting career, I started talking politics. And it's really interesting to me that, gold and uranium going into this election. Now, physical gold, physical uranium were my two highest conviction bets. Maybe I subconsciously got that from Lobo Tigre, but his argument is really sound, I think. we need baseload power, and physical uranium will get that. Regardless of the recession coming, I think that that's kind of a constant. You know what I mean? We should stay around $80 there in physical uranium, regardless. Now, when Trump got elected and gold fell, I was slightly surprised, but I guess I kind of figured that it would more flatline a little bit, and then if Kamala got it, it would probably spike a little bit. But to have it sell off like that was, I was honestly kind of glad, because as we got a little bit of the correction, being a chart guy, I mean, I don't know if you look at the charts, but it's like the RSI across multiple time frames was screaming sell, which was a nice name to take profits. Now that it's had this little correction, it's starting to line up with some moving averages that are kind of scooping it up like little soap bubbles. And so I placed a couple little bets, hoping to catch that next rise up. Maybe I'm a little too leveraged on that side with options, but I don't think that the ironically named Doge Committee, Department of Government Efficiency, like, is that even like real? I don't see that government and being efficient, like that, those two words just do not belong in the same sentence. So I guess, long story short, I think that, no, I don't think he's going to help. I don't think he'll be as bad as Kamala, but I still see some pretty radical, QE coming when the recession hits. I see, maybe gold would have made it to 5,000 at the end of Kamala's term, and at the end of Trump's, it's only going to go to 3,500. But I still think that gold's going to do pretty well under it.
When I was talking to Dave Cullen in the green room, and we were talking about, the different gold application. And I think we both agree that probably what that was is just some of the risk premium taken out of not a Trump win or a Kamala win, but a no win,
and
like a contested
answer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. Because what they got was a decisive victory that wasn't contested, and it was over.
Good point.
Yeah, because it wasn't that big either. I mean, it was, there's something in there for that, I think.
Yeah.
So I think that sort of makes sense. As far as Trump versus Kamala, I think in the long run, I just don't see that much difference, I think. In terms of the government grows, the deficits grow.
Yeah.
Inflation continues. As long as inflation continues, that's positive for gold. It's negative for the country, but positive for gold. I don't think that changes. What might change is that, Trump is, by pedigree, he's like a deal maker. That's sort of his thing. And he also seems to be, a little bit impatient. You can see that with the frequency with which he fires people. He likes quick results. So what can he do? I mean, there is room to make deals, which the previous administration wasn't really doing.
Yeah.
Diplomacy was sort of not their thing, right? Trump has his own style of diplomacy.
Yeah.
But at least he'll engage. And so, I don't know. I want to be positive. In the short run, maybe he can get something done. Maybe, they can do something about the wars. That's sort of what he ran on.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get something in return for that. Maybe BRICS will slow down de-dollarization in return.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would benefit both sides, actually.
Right?
If, we could sort of back off Ukraine and Taiwan a little bit.
Yeah.
They back off dollar de-dollarization. Both sides would get a little bit more room to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. Because going into the election, I was 80% certain, if I had to put odds on it, it'd be like pocket aces versus pocket twos. And that we wouldn't know who the president was until January. I thought it was going to be pretty close and contested. And no matter who looked like they were at the other side of the fight, and you're right, they were in race next there.
Yeah, that's where the anxiety was, actually. Anyway, is thing, to be uncertain, undecisive, and then all kinds of chaos come to result that, which nobody wants.
Yeah. But I think we got the best outcome as far as, no riots in the streets, and everyone seemed to be civil.
Yeah.
And now we know where to place our chips, or at least have a better idea of doing so going forward.
So what are your viewers saying about it? You getting like a lot of feedback about this?
Yeah, I think basically, well, most of my viewers would have liked Chase Oliver, but wait, oh yeah, sure. Most of my views are libertarians. The ones that are not are Republicans, and I think we have very few Democrats, at least judging by the comments. Uh, we have Democrats, they don't leave many comments. For me, I'm just in it to make money. I just kind of want to know like which direction are we going so I can place my chips on the table in the right order. But uh, yeah, I think we all wasted our votes. Well, this is the first time I've ever voted for someone that I knew had no chance of winning.
Right. Protest vote.
Yeah, a protest vote, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What's funny is I think Trump was kind of a protest vote in 2016 for some people.
yeah. Yeah. And he what? He did. He did. Awesome. Well, Albert, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Be sure to check out the Rural Classroom. It's free. There'll be a link in the pinned comment below. And for serious investors, there is the Rural Classroom Plus, which is $29 per month, and that is going up soon. So be sure to check it out before it does, and you'll be grandfathered in. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to support the show and share this with anyone that you think needs to hear it. It's probably your buddy that can't stop talking about tech stocks. You have yourself a great rest of the day, and we will talk to you next time.